grandchildren's salary for their full life expectancy. And he doesn't have half the goods he's made up his mind to own. We'll work out something for him. Service to the customer is our job, and we know it well." Karen wavered visibly. "And after you're gone, sir, they'll all belong to your son." That was true, Karen thought. His son would have all the marvellous things that filled the house. And after all, it was only 30 years out of a life expectancy of 150. He signed with a flourish. "Excellent," Pathis said. "And by the way, has your home got an AE master operator?" It hadn't. Pathis explained that a master operator was new this year, a stupendous advance in scientific engineering. It was designed to take over all the functions of house cleaning and cooking without its owner having to lift a finger. Instead of running around all day pushing half a dozen different buttons, with a master operator all you have to do is push one. A remarkable achievement. Since it was only $535, Karen signed for one, having it added to his son's debt. Right's right, he thought, walking Pathis to the door. This house will be Billy's some day, his and his wife's. They certainly will want everything up to date. Just one button, he thought. That would be a time saver. After Pathis left, Karen sat back in an adjustable chair and turned on the Solido. After twisting the easy dial, he discovered that there was nothing he wanted to see. He tilted back the chair and took a nap. The something on his mind was still bothering him. "Hello, darling." He awoke to find his wife was home. She kissed him on the ear. "Look." She had bought an AE Sexitizer negligee. He was pleasantly surprised that that was all she had bought. Usually Leela returned from shopping laden down. "It's lovely," he said. She bent over for a kiss, then giggled, a habit he knew she had picked up from the latest popular Solido star. He wished she hadn't. "Going to dial supper," she said, and went into the kitchen. Karen smiled, thinking that soon she would be able to dial the meals without moving out of the living room. He settled back in his chair, and his son walked in. "How's it going, son?" he asked heartily. "All right," Billy answered listlessly. "What's the matter, son?" The boy stared at his feet, not answering. "Come on, tell Dad what's the trouble." Billy sat down on a packing case and put his chin in his hands. He looked thoughtfully at his father. "Dad, could I be a master repairman if I wanted to be?" Mr. Carron smiled at the question. Billy alternated between wanting to be a master repairman and a rocket pilot. The repairmen were the elite. It was their job to fix the automatic repair machines. The repair machines could fix just about anything, but you couldn't have a machine fix the machine that fixed the machine. That was where the master repairmen came in. But it was a highly competitive field, and only a very few of the best brains were able to get their degrees. And although the boy was bright, he didn't seem to have an engineering bent. "It's possible, son. Anything's possible." "But is it possible for me?" "I don't know," Carron answered as honestly as he could. "Well, I don't want to be a master repairman anyway," the boy said, seeing that the answer was no. "I want to be a space pilot." "A space pilot, Billy?" Leela asked, coming into the room. "But there aren't any." "Yes, there are," Billy argued. "We were told in school that the government is going to send some men to Mars." "They've been saying that for 100 years," Carron said, "and they still haven't gotten around to doing it." "They will this time." "Why would you want to go to Mars?" Leela asked, winking at Carron. "There are no pretty girls on Mars." "I'm not interested in girls. I just want to go to Mars." "You wouldn't like it, honey," Leela said. "It's a nasty old place with no air." "It's got some air." "I'd like to go there," the boy insisted sullenly. "I don't like it here." "What's that?" Carron asked, sitting up straight. "Is there anything you haven't got? Anything you want?" "No, sir. I've got everything I want." Whenever his son called him sir, Carron knew that something was wrong. "Look, son, when I was your age, I wanted to go to Mars, too. I wanted to do romantic things. I even wanted to be a master repairman." "Then why didn't you?" "Well, I grew up. I realized that there were more important things. First I had to pay off the debt my father had left me, and then I met your mother." Leela giggled. "And I wanted a home of my own. It'll be the same with you. You'll pay off your debt and get married, the same as the rest of us." Billy was silent for a while. Then he brushed his dark hair, straight like his father's, back from his forehead and wet his lips. "How come I have debts, sir?" Karen explained carefully about the things the family needed for civilized living and the cost of those items, how they had to be paid, how it was customary for a son to take on a part of his parents' debt when he came of age. Billy's silence annoyed him. It was almost as if the boy were reproaching him, after he had slaved for years to give the ungrateful whelp every luxury. "Son," he said harshly, "have you studied history in school? Good. Then you know how it was in the past. Wars. How would you like to get blown up in a war?" The boy didn't answer. "Or how would you like to break your back for 8 hours a day doing work a machine should handle? Or be hungry all the time? Or cold with the rain beating down on you and no place to sleep?" He paused for a response, got none, and went on. "You live in the most fortunate age mankind has ever known. You're surrounded by every wonder of art and science, the finest music, the greatest books and art, all at your fingertips. All you have to do is push a button." He shifted to a kindlier tone. "Well, what are you thinking?" "I was just wondering how I could go to Mars," the boy said. "With the debt, I mean. I don't suppose I could get away from that." "Of course not." "Unless I stowed away on a rocket." "But you wouldn't do that." "No, of course not," the boy said, but his tone lacked conviction. "You'll stay here and marry a very nice girl," Leela told him. "Sure I will," Billy said. "Sure." He grinned suddenly. "I didn't mean any of that stuff about going to Mars. I really didn't." "I'm glad of that," Leela answered. "Just forget I mentioned it," Billy said, smiling stiffly. He stood up and raced upstairs. "Probably gone to play with his rockets," Leela said. "He's such a little devil." The Carrons ate a quiet supper, and then it was time for Mr. Carron to go to work. He was on night shift this month. He kissed his wife goodbye, climbed into his jetlash and roared to the factory. The automatic gates recognized him and opened. He parked and walked in. Automatic lathes, automatic presses, everything was automatic. The factory was huge and bright, and the machines hummed softly to themselves, doing their job, and doing it well. Carron walked to the end of the automatic washing machine assembly line to relieve the man there. "Everything all right?" he asked. "Sure," the man said. "Haven't had a bad one all year. These new models have built-in voices. They don't light up like the old ones." Carron sat down where the man had sat and waited for the first washing machine to come through. His job was the soul of simplicity. He just sat there and the machines went by him. He pressed a button on them and found out if they were all right. They always were. After passing him, the washing machines went to the packaging section. The first one slid by on the long slide of rollers. He pressed the starting button on the side. "Ready for the wash," the washing machine said. Carron pressed the release and let it go by. That boy of his, Carron thought. Would he grow up and face his responsibilities? Would he mature and take his place in society? Carron doubted it. The boy was a born rebel. If anyone got to Mars, it would be his kid. But the thought didn't especially disturb him. "Ready for the wash," another machine went by. Carron remembered something about Miller. The jovial man had always been talking about the planets, always kidding about going off somewhere and roughing it. He hadn't, though. He'd committed suicide. "Ready for the wash?" Carron had 8 hours in front of him, and he loosened his belt to prepare for it. 8 hours of pushing buttons and listening to a machine announce its readiness. "Ready for the wash." He pressed the release. "Ready for the wash." Carron's mind strayed from the job, which didn't need much attention in any case. He wished he'd done what he'd longed to do as a youngster. It would have been great to be a rocket pilot, to push a button and go to Mars. End of Cost of Living by Robert Sheckley.